Well, actually, I don't do that much production because I don't really edit much. I just leave most of the stuff in, and I assume the listeners don't mind that. So, get in touch if you do. Hello and welcome to the Rose and Rockstar from the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast and the Marketing Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm managing partner at Velocity B, a B2B sales and marketing advisory firm. It's Saturday the 20th of September, and in a moment I'll join my chum and Chief Troublemaker at 7th Bear in our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, where, over one of his fabulous cocktails, I'll pick his brains on a marketing topic that is top of mind for me. This week, I'm curious about Robert's writing habit, as he's just written a 5th book and consistently cranks out in-depth articles for the Content Marketing Institute and his newsletter. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back. After this word.
We'll be right back.
After this word.
Hey marketers, Deborah Eckerling here.
And I'm Keith Smith, and we host the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is not just another marketing podcast, but the marketing podcast about all the other marketing podcasts.
Podcasts are booming, right? We love them, and people actually listen. They don't scroll, they don't swipe, well, except maybe during the ad breaks.
But here's the secret. With the Marketing Podcast Network, your ads don't make people hit skip. We put your brand on shows that people actually want to hear.
That's right. We match your message with podcasts that make marketing nerds like us perk up and take notes, or at least nod knowingly, pretending they understand.
And don't worry, because we'll deliver your ad naturally. People might even think that we love your brand personally, which of course we totally do, unless it's a veggie smoothie, then maybe not.
If you want your brand heard without making listeners roll their eyes,
head to marketingpodcasts.net and catch marketing fans at work, rest, and play. Seriously, your audience is already listening. Make sure they hear your brand and not our awkward jokes.
Join the conversation, because good ads shouldn't just be tolerated, they should be enjoyed.
Yes!
Are you tired of juggling multiple software tools to manage your agency? Say hello to Deltek Workbook, the ultimate solution for marketing and communication agencies. With Workbook, you can streamline your projects, resources, and finances all in one place. Imagine real-time dashboards and reports giving you full visibility into your projects, people, and financials. Plan your team's capacity weeks in advance to avoid bottlenecks while staying on budget to maximize project margins. Plus, Workbook works perfectly for both agencies and in-house marketing teams looking to boost efficiency and profitability. And here's the best part. At PCI, we're a certified Deltek partner and reseller offering expert implementation, integrations, and ongoing support to ensure your success. Want to see how Deltek Workbook can transform your operations? For a free consultation, visit pci.us/podcast today. That's pci.us/podcast.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How's your week been?
You got to figure out different ways to say that, right? It's like it's like on my podcast when I go, the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. It's like it gets to a point where you're like, I got to think of different ways to say it.
Well, the way you're doing your ads at the moment, it's just so funny. I just gone for a little sort of 80s thing from a sample from a song, but you're doing the whole, if people haven't listened to your podcast, you've got a whole theatrical show going on around your ads, haven't you?
Yeah, we're doing a whole, especially with our ads that we're trying to do now, I'm having the most fun doing little parodies of songs, of lyrics that I'm writing, for a song that I wrote called Paying the Bills, which is basically the story of Joe and I deciding to put ads on the podcast. It's basically that's the lyrics. And then I just modify them for whatever genre of music, which is the most fun because you get to dive into the sort of the collection of, how songs are structured, which is, I know something about because as a former songwriter. I guess current songwriter now, but I mean, so as a songwriter, I understand the structure of genres of music. So applying those lyrics and changing them up to fit the structure of that song, and then using AI to actually create the music is just loads of fun.
You're having too much fun. And I think if you carry on putting this level of effort into it, it's going to turn into the Super Bowl for football fans' wives. They just watch it for the ads. It may be.
I worry a little bit that on the listening side that, so I had to, like, for example, we did Yacht Rock this month.
Yeah.
Which of course is probably my best one so far. And it's because it's a genre I love so much. So it really came out well. And so, but I had to literally cut the song down because the song was almost 3.5 minutes on its own. And so it was like, okay, I can't make them endure all of that. Right. So I need to pull this down to like a minute. So yeah.
No, I think it's you guys are having too much fun, and but the thing, I mean, because I'm an audio listener, so I listen when I'm walking. But then what I have to do, especially when it's the beginning of the month when you're showing it for the first time, I have to then go to YouTube and then go fast forward and watch the ads so that I know what's going on. So yeah,
yes. So this, I will tell you, this is interesting because the video for this is particularly disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So for people that have never listened to this podcast before, let me explain that this is This Old Marketing podcast, which is available on all podcasting platforms, all good podcasting platforms, and some rubbish ones as well that you do.
I think it's on the bad ones too. So I think it's every, so it's, it's not just the good platforms. I think it's on every damn platform that's out there.
It is. And on YouTube, of course. All right, so shall we move on and have something to drink?
Sure. Yeah. Let's have a cocktail here. So the cocktail that I have for us tonight is what's called a Rosarita Red Card.
We're sticking with the red theme.
Yeah, it's basically so this is another bourbon drink,
right?
Which I have been hot on. So it starts with 1.5 parts of bourbon and then a half part or ounce, depending on how you're doing things, of Cointreau, the orange liqueur. So a little bit of that. Then some strawberries, which will be good for those of you in the UK. And then a little bit of lime juice and a lime wedge. And then you put that, so we talked about this before, tahine, which is maybe a little difficult for you to find, but it's there. Yeah. It's sort of you rim the glass with tahine. And it's just a lovely, lovely drink. So it becomes sort of a bourbon plus Cointreau, sort of an orangey with a strawberry taste. And you can muddle the strawberries if you like and do all of that work, or you just put a few slices of strawberries into it, whichever is your preference.
Nice.
And then the lime juice, of course, and then the tahine around the rim of the glass. And it's just the mix of the tahine, which is sort of a salty, spicy flavor with the fruitiness of the drink is just a lovely, lovely. It's called a Rosarita Red Card.
And I think the last time you applied tahine to a drink, I made the point that all that salty spiciness in a drink just sounds dangerous to me because it just makes you more thirsty.
Yeah, it does. Well, and then it definitely, that's kind of the point. Yeah.
You'd be quaffing a few of these.
That's right.
So my question for you this week while we're in the bar, and I'm, by the way, I think we mentioned your personal website yesterday. So last week, and I guess we'll mention it again this week. So this is, I'm in awe of your writing, but also I enjoy your new personal website has set a bar that I'm trying to meet. I actually had some professional photographs taken this week to try and up my game. So I'm
good.
coming.
Yeah. Very nice. Very
anyway,
nice.
what I want to talk about this other fandom of yours was your writing process. So as we've been talking about, you've just finished a book, which is an undertaking in itself. I mean, as you've said, it's not a particularly long book, but it's, in my opinion, quite beautifully written. But what I'm more interested in learning about is how you do your weekly posts that you publish on Content Marketing Institute, because you don't just post like I do, my Tuesday 2 cents, which is 4 or 5 paragraphs of something that's fairly clearly thought of in the spur of the moment, whereas you write, seemingly well-researched, proper articles. And I thought, I look at them and I think this is quite a significant piece of work. So I wonder if you could just talk us through how you go about your writing process, because you not only do that, of course, you do your Lens newsletter, and obviously you were writing a book. And for any of us that do a lot of writing, like I do a newsletter and all that kind of stuff, this is quite an undertaking. So I was interested in what your process is.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me talk about it from the perspective of the weekly article. And because, so to be fair, the anything that I do in the Lens, which is my newsletter, usually the heart of that article will come from one of the weekly articles, either an older one or a newer one. And more typically a newer one. And it's rewritten for my particular audience, right? So I write in a very particular way for the CMI audience, and then I write for a very particular way. So in the Lens, for example, what you'll notice is that it's edgier. It's a little, there's more political jokes. There's more pop culture jokes than I typically do on CMI, because on CMI, I'm trying to be more professorial and educational focused and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So the Lens is more me, I would say. And then I'm writing for the platform. I'm writing for that audience for CMI. So it's a good place for us to anchor, because it's really the anchoring of a repurposing that I do across different platforms, which may include at times using the article as the basis of my rant on the podcast. And it may use so I tend to look at the writing, my weekly article writing, as a way of telling a story at its heart. And then that's my start of my process, is I have to come up with a weekly good idea that I need to explain, right? Or that I want to explain. And then so I don't think of it as an output. In other words, I'm not thinking of it as a blog post or an article or a rant on the podcast or an email newsletter. I'm thinking of it, I need to tell a good story. Just full stop.
Cool,
so I'll write sort of I use Word because I'm old school and I'm an old man and I don't use Google. So I use Microsoft Word, and I write, and it might be 3,000 or 4,000 words when it all comes out and vomits out of me. And I would love to tell you that I outline it first, and then I go do all the wonderful research, and then I come back and pair, and that there's some like wonderfully structured process. There's not. That basically my process from whenever I come inspired by the idea, and that the inspiration for the idea may come from literally somebody's LinkedIn post. It could come from a newsletter article. It could come from comes from a lot of inputs, right? Including, by the way, my past articles, right? There are times when I go back to an article that I wrote in 2022 and go, oh, I could really update that. I could update that because that's still relevant. The point is still relevant, but it needs to be updated for 2025, that kind of thing. So, so there's that. So there's some input, some inspiration to get to the core nut of an idea that I need to write about. And then I just vomit it up, literally. Just I, without regard to whether it's true or not, factual or not, researched or not, I just sort of vomit up my opinion. Then I go press it, right? Then I go pressure it.
Right.
And that pressure rewriting, again, I would love to tell you that it's structured, but I go down rat holes and I go down, and it may result in an idea for another article that gets stuck in a file. I have a file in my Dropbox that I just sort of have idea, like it's my swipe file, right? You just sort of put ideas in there. Yeah. And I basically work it back and forth. And it's usually the longest part of the whole process is working out that whole piece, whatever that whole piece is going to be. And finding the substantiating, pressing on it, and that's a lot of where I use AI these days, is to pressure test ideas and research and find better research and find better. And it's taking longer, but it's getting the work is deeper. So I'm actually enjoying that process very much, because it feeds my sort of researcher brain, my my sort of educator brain, which is go out and find the right research instead of like, the latest stat from Forbes or HubSpot or something. And so you get better numbers, you get better research, you get stronger articles out of it. And ultimately what I end up with is probably a 2,500 word to 3,000 word edited thing, Word doc. I then take that and then move and edit and process and focus it. And again, I use AI a little bit here because, as you and I were talking before, what I say in 1,000 words could probably be said in 10. So I use AI to help me like truncate and shorten and sort of more simply say things. And so I ultimately get to a 1,500 to 1,700 word article for CMI. And that becomes then the basis plus my other one to create my Lens newsletter. And then that can sometimes, if it's a well enough, and cool enough article, I think, go into what I call my perma file, which is I basically have files in there like stuff I want to revisit or include, and including some of those made it into the book.
Right. That's what I was going to also ask. So so I have a similar process, whereas I note down ideas and stuff like that, but I tend to write against the deadline. So, oh my God, it's Tuesday. I got to write my Tuesday 2 cents. Have you got a more formal writing kind of process in that you write every day in the morning, or how do you schedule the time to do that? Because if you're going to be kicking out 3,000 words, even if you're going to cut it down, that's quite a lot of writing.
Yeah, it is. And so I will typically, it's one or the other, right? So in other words, I do make time available every weekend because I find that I write better on the weekends because I'm not distracted by emails or calls or meetings. And I really need to sink into my process, right? So Sundays are great time for that. And I can put on some music, or I can put on a football game, or I can do, and I can just literally sink in and spend a good 2 or 3 hours just writing, right? On, whether or not I have a deadline or not. Because sometimes 2 ideas will pop out and I'll write 2 in a weekend. Sometimes it's 1. So I have a pipeline, if you will, of stuff, right? So I'm never scrambling last minute for something to put out, to publish. It's usually picking. And sometimes you've got 2 ideas, and then something like, the astronomer thing happens, or Cracker Barrel happens, and you're like, oh shit, let's use it. Let's like all hands on deck. Let's write something fast because you want to take advantage of but I do have a backstop, if you will. And so sometimes you do write, but there are other times when I'm writing things that aren't, it's a little hard to say aren't as important, but basically are based on deadline, right? Like, somebody asks me to write something for their blog, or somebody asks me to write a little thing, or it's a roundup post and I need to that I will usually save for like the day before it's due and go, okay, I'm going to write this 5-sentence, thing for their roundup post or whatever.
Yeah. And the other thing is now that you put, because you've got the podcast, you've got your regular articles, you're also creating video to promote your articles as well on CMI. Do you create all of that yourself as well as part of that process?
I do. Yeah. I've created the video. So the funny thing is I've been doing the video for like a year, and putting it up, and CMI has been putting it up, and like literally no one noticed. And then I've just like 4 weeks ago, I decided, hey, maybe I should put this up on my LinkedIn, and all of a sudden, now it's getting attention, which I'm really grateful for, because I care. I love doing the video. It goes right along with as I was talking about earlier, my song stuff. That's my happy place, is editing a video, editing audio, looking at the multimedia stuff. I don't love shooting the video, because I don't necessarily love myself on video, but whatever.
I'm the same.
And I've gotten my setup to be pretty seamless, so it's pretty quick. I can like literally within 2 minutes have my lights on and have everything ready to go, and put up the green screen, and away to go. And the way I treat the video is I've written the piece, and then this is where I really do have AI help me. I'll have AI help me truncate that down into a 2-minute distillation, right? So what are the main points? Like literally an outline. What I do is I have AI go, what are the most important points that I should cover in this, and put it out into an outline. And then what I'll do is I'll write a very quick 2-minute. I mean, writing a 2-minute script doesn't take long at all. It's literally like 1 page. So then you just and there I can be even snarkier or even a little more clickbaity than I would even in the article. And then I use a teleprompter, and I've gotten pretty good at reading a teleprompter, and shoot the video, produce it. Which takes the longest part. The producing takes the longest part.
Yeah. I mean, I find that with audio, even with producing this thing we're doing right now. But also, actually, I don't do that much production because I don't really edit much. I just leave most of the stuff in, and I assume the listeners don't mind that. So, get in touch if you do.
I'll tell you this. It's why we stopped. It's why Joe and I stopped doing interviews on our podcast. Right, because it was taking too damn long to edit them, right? And so, and by the way, we were, we were just finding that guests were difficult, right? Because they're, it's rare that you get a great guest who will be great, right? And that you don't have to heavily edit. And it's like, it's just hard. Guests are hard. It makes editing and producing so much harder.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with that. And also you need a lot of time to not only, you need more production time, but you also need the scheduling time. You need to be ready for when they don't show up and they reschedule.
Right.
You need to have a
tech issues and
Yeah. I once had somebody who was doing a podcast from like a little log cabin, like I guess in their garden, and there was a flush of a toilet. I found really hard. So presumably they had a toilet in their log cabin, and you could hear it through their microphone. It's like, how am I going to edit this out? But nowadays it's much easier. I mean, that was probably 4 years ago, but now, I mean, the editing tools are so much better. Aren't they?
I will tell you, the Adobe podcast cleaner upper thingy
it's like magic.
The most magical tool ever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you put me onto Auphonic back in the day, and I've always sworn by that. But yeah, you're right. Anyway, we've drifted onto podcasting. I was talking about the writing, but all good points. And so that was a little bit about your writing process. And we just alluded to the book. When you were writing the book, was that similar, or did you that took some different discipline?
What was the question?
Was that a similar process with the book, or that took a different discipline? You then had to really
the process with the book was very different, and the only reason it was really different this time than I would normally do with a book is because I really wanted to. It's funny because it's totally the antithesis of the book itself. I wanted to meet the requirements that I actually evangelize in the book, but I also really wanted to, I thought timeliness was really important.
Get it out.
It's a concept that I really am passionate about and wanted to be, if I'm selfish, known for. And I could see the trend starting to happen. And I thought with where AI is in the middle of 2025, it was just, the timing was too perfect, right? So, and I didn't want it to be a big, 300 or 400 page book that you had to go slog through. I literally wanted it to be something that you could read in one sitting if you so felt like it, or a couple of sittings max. Because I really didn't have any pat answers or templates or anything. Yeah. I just wanted to ask people to wrestle with the questions. Yeah. And so I loved that, and I was passionate about it, and I loved writing it. So it's a long-winded way of saying basically, when I started writing the book, the first thing I did, I always outline first. I outline everything first in a book because I need to, that's going back to my screenwriting days. I want an inciting incident. I want the core story and arc of the character. And then I want a great, satisfying, big climactic ending. And so I map it out first. And then, unlike where I do with most books, which is I write sort of a hypothesis or a thesis for each chapter in the book, and then move them around accordingly and play with them and figure out where I need to cover stuff. And I didn't do that this time. I basically mapped it out and then just dove in and started writing and just devoted like my weekends to writing and wrote it very, very quickly. It's only 30,000 words. So it's for that came, it's basically ostensibly 10 blog posts, right? So
10 of your blog posts.
yeah. So I wrote it in, I literally wrote it in like a month. Like it did not take me long to write the book at all. And there's not, and you'll notice in the book, there's some research, but there's not a lot of like, references to research and stuff like that. I wanted to pay honor to the people who have been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
So I referenced their articles and their books, which are books that I've read in the past. But I wanted to make clear that this is not necessarily a newish idea, but it's wrapped in a new container of this idea of friction. So that was the only research I had to do. I didn't have to go out and do primary research or figure out stuff and all that kind of stuff.
No, that's good. I also think I feel it gives me permission to write a shorter book because you don't need to punch your blog. Yeah. I think it's fantastic.
Exactly. And it's what, it's what people want these days, right? They don't want big, long 400-page books that, by the way, most business books need to be like 100 pages. They don't need to be 300 pages.
Oh, some of them should be a fucking blog post. And I think we've talked about that before.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. All right, mate. Well, I better let you get out of here. Thank you very much. And we nicely rounded back to your book again. So where can people find that?
They can find that at valuablefriction.com.
Splendid. And that's on your robertrose.net website, which I will keep talking about how I love your reboot of that. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, where are they going to find you, mate?
I think what I want to talk about this week is my Substack, my newsletter. It's called The Lens. We talked a little bit about it here. I would love for people to go subscribe to my general ridiculousness there. As I say, it's kind of a newsletter it's like a mixtape, right? It's sort of like, it takes me a lot to do it, but it's just full of ridiculous attitude but it's hopefully a little insightful too. It's for the, people who have unsubscribed from newsletters. That's what I like to say.
I like it. Like I say, you're right. And you release quality stuff across all these channels. And so that's why I wanted to have this episode where I find out how the magic happens. So thank you very much for sharing that. And most importantly for me, are you going to be in the bar next week, mate?
Of course.
I'll see you then. Thank you very much. Thank you, Robert. I realised during the edit we kicked off there with a bit of an inside baseball conversation about his podcast. Hopefully you got the gist. But take a look at this old marketing on YouTube. The ads are a crazy work of art. So that's a wrap on our visit to the Rose and Rockstar. Thank you for putting a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track and jiving along with us. And of course, you can find all the links to me and Robert in the show notes on rockstarcmo.com. You can also find links to our newsletter, blog, previous episodes, and all the things. Coming up on Wednesday, I still need to come up with 5 effing things for me and Jeff to talk about. So that's my weekend sorted, and Robert will be back in the bar on Saturday. In the meantime, I'll leave you with this quote, appropriately from Robert. Marketing is telling the world you're a rock star. Content marketing is showing the world you are one.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.